undocumented workers and take jobs away from those who are willing to work who are already here legally. And we've got to help communities like San Diego with federal resources to handle the health care and the education and the law enforcement costs. San Diego and California don't make immigration policy. The federal government needs to pay more so that the taxpayers of local communities don't bear those costs. And number 4, I want to do more with our countries to the south, to work with them to help create more jobs for their own people. People would not leave their families and their homes if they had a chance to make a better life, to take care of themselves and their children. And then, of course, we get to the most difficult and controversial aspect. What do we do with the 12 to 14 million people who are here, and every one of us knows somebody? You may not think you do, but might be the person who made your breakfast this morning. Maybe it's the person taking care of your grandmother in a nursing home. But we are clearly dependent upon and knowing about people who did not come here legally, but who are working hard, sending their kids to school. And a lot of people, on the Republican side and some people in TV and radio, they are just demagogues. They just talk all the time about how we should just round everybody up and deport them. And I thought about that because, you see, I think it's really a responsible position for somebody who's running to be president to say, well, how would we do that? I know that's kind of inconvenient because sometimes you can't get a word in edgewise, but I got to thinking about it, and I realized that suppose we were to pass a law which said, okay, everybody's going to be deported. Well, to where? That's the first question. But let's just say that was the law. Now, how would we do that? Well, we'd have to hire tens of thousands of federal law enforcement officers. You would have to have provisions in the law that these federal officers could basically go into anyone's home or anyone's business because they're looking for people who are here illegally. It would cost at least $200 billion a year to try to figure out how to do that. And I was just imagining how people here in San Diego would feel if some federal law enforcement official knocked on your door and said, I want to come in and look for somebody who's here illegally. Right? I mean, I think that would last about a nanosecond in America. That would be such an invasion of our privacy and of the rights of legitimate homeowners and business owners. And if we were to have everybody rounded up, I was told it would take 200,000 buses stretching 1,700 miles. So I got to thinking, well, what else could we do? And I think what we need to do is to tell everybody to come out of the shadows and get registered. If there is evidence that they've committed a crime in this country or the country they came from, then they will be deported, because that is something that we will not accept. But that's a small percentage, and for everyone else, we will give them some tough conditions, and they have to agree to meet them, or they too will have to leave. First, they have to pay a fine because they did come here illegally. They did break the law, and when you break the law in America, there has to be consequences, so they have to pay a fine. Number 2, over time, they have to pay back taxes because they have been working in jobs and very often not contributing to our tax system. Number 3, they have to try to learn English, and we have to try to help them with more services and opportunities to help people. And if people agree with these conditions, then I think we say, fine, you have a path to legalization. You are obviously going to have to meet these conditions, continue to work, continue to follow the laws. You will not be able to jump the line over people who've been waiting legally to reunite themselves and their families to be able to come to this country. And if we do that, here are 2 things that will be very positive. Number 1, once they have this conditional legal status, employers will no longer be able to either exploit them or pay less than what they should pay to American workers. two, it is in keeping with our traditions and values, both as a nation of immigrants and as a committed country that believes in the rule of law. This is important for us to deal with, as all these other problems are. And yet we know that if we don't begin to address our problems overseas, we will not be keeping faith with who we are as Americans. I want to restore our leadership and moral authority, and that begins with ending the war in Iraq and bringing our troops home as quickly and responsibly as possible.